If you're a developer, trust is pretty much your most valuable currency. But one simple mistake, one little oversight, can just wipe it out completely. So today, we're going to break down the impersonation policy, a rule that can literally make or break your app's reputation. Just imagine this for a second. You need to download your bank's app. You search the store, and a couple of options pop up. They all kind of use the right colors, the logos look similar. So which one do you trust with all your financial data? This is that exact moment of confusion and risk that impersonation creates for users every single day. So you might see one called Official Bank App, and then right next to it, another one called My Bank App, Official. And the icons, they're almost identical. So which one's the real deal? This confusion is exactly what the impersonation policy is there to prevent. And it's not just about protecting users, it's about protecting your brand from getting damaged by copycats. So, to avoid all that mess, we really need to get what the rule is all about. Let's break down exactly what the impersonation policy says. Okay, so at its core, the policy is actually pretty simple. Don't mislead users by pretending your app is something it's not. That means you can't pose as another developer, you can't pretend to be some big, well-known company or government entity, or even just another popular app. And this, right here, this is the golden rule. But notice, it's not just about telling an outright lie. The key word to focus on here is imply. You can't even suggest a relationship or an authorization that doesn't actually exist. It all comes down to the total vibe, the overall impression your app gives to the user. To really get this rule, we need to look at where developers trip up the most. So let's dissect the anatomy of a fake app by looking at some of the most common ways people violate this policy. These violations usually fall into four main categories. You could call them red flags: your developer name, your app's icon, its title, and any claims you make about it. A mistake in just one of these areas can get you a policy violation, which could mean your app gets taken down or even your entire account gets suspended. It's serious stuff. All right, first up, your developer name. Let's say your developer name is something like Google Official Apps. Well, that clearly suggests you are Google, or at the very least you have some kind of official deal with them. If that's not true, it's a direct violation. The name itself is implying a relationship that just isn't there. And this isn't just about text, right? Visuals are incredibly powerful. Using a national emblem to make your app look like it's from the government, or just copying a business logo to ride on their coattails, both are classic, textbook examples of visual impersonation. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. It's not always about a straight-up copy and paste job. The policy also covers app titles and icons that are just so similar to other products that a user might get confused. This is a really crucial gray area that you've got to navigate carefully. Here's a perfect way to see it. You can't just go and lift the logo from a popular crypto website and slap it on your app. That's a pretty clear attempt to mislead people into thinking you're them. The better way? Create an original design. Sure, it might feel a little more generic at first, but it's compliant because it's yours. It stands on its own and isn't trying to borrow trust from someone else's brand. We see this happen all the time with fan apps, don't we? You make a fun quiz about a popular TV show, and so you use the show's logo and maybe the main character in your icon. Even if you mean well, you're still misleading users because you're implying an official connection that doesn't exist. And that brings us to one of the most common and, frankly, one of the most easily avoidable mistakes that developers make. I call it the official app trap. Look, the rule here is just dead simple and totally absolute. You cannot use the word official unless you are official. Falsely claiming that status for any person, any company, or any brand is one of the clearest violations there is, and it's super easy for the review process to flag. The policy actually gives this fantastic, super memorable example. You can't just create a fan app and call it Justin Bieber Official. Why? Because that title makes a direct claim. It says you're endorsed, you're authorized. Unless you've actually gotten permission from his team, that title is a clear violation, period. Okay, we've looked at the rule, the common mistakes, the big traps. So what does this all mean for you and your work? How do you make sure your app has integrity and stays on the right side of the policy? It really just boils down to four simple ideas. First, be transparent about who you are and who you aren't. Second, be original with your design. Third, be honest in the claims you make. And fourth, Be compliant with things like brand guidelines. At the end of the day, it's about building your own brand, not just borrowing someone else's. You know, in the end, this whole policy is really about one thing: trust. So take a good, hard look at your own app, its name, its icon, its description, and ask yourself this one simple question. Are you building your own trust, or are you just trying to borrow it from someone else? Because in the long run, only one of those is actually going to last.